This episode of the Sailing Podcast has been made possible by our sponsor, His Majesty's Coast Guard. Nearly there, and the wind was building, and it was a northerly actually, so that means that it's blowing you into the harbour and effectively you're approaching a lee shore. That's a lee shore apart from this 50-yard gap. So there I was like, right, time to get the sails down. Went to start the engine, I got the main down. No, I think I still had the sails up at that point, because I was like, I'll start the engine, then I'll get the sails down. Started the engine, put the main away, put it into gear, and about 10 seconds engine stopped, and I realised that one of the jib sheets, the figure of 8 had come untied in the end of the jib sheet, gone overboard in the dark,
no.
and gone round the propeller. So, welcome to the Sailing Podcast with me, Theo Stocker, and him,
Toby Heppell.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. This is the podcast where we talk about the sea, boats, the stuff that goes on boats, the people that sail them, and really anything that we feel like talking about, really, that is sailing related, I guess.
Yeah, definitely sailing related.
That's the one parameter that is fixed for this.
Yeah, we're not getting too much into any geopolitical nonsense. It's just sailing.
No, we're not going into global current affairs or anything like that.
Yeah.
We're not going to give any financial advice, even if we do talk about expensive boats to buy or cheap boats to buy. We can't advise you one way or the other, apart from buy the boat. You should do it.
I mean, if we're talking financial advice, never buy the boat. You should never do it, surely.
No, buy the boat. Definitely buy the boat. So we are here today in the Royal Lymington Yacht Club. Thanks very much for having us. This is a lovely place to sit, and we are overlooking. It's a bit of a grey day, but we're overlooking the Solent and the Isle of Wight over there, and you've got the Lymington River just behind us, which I think you'll be able to see. And if we're lucky, we might get a few nice yachts going up and down. Although there's not much wind, and it being the middle of the week, not many people are going out.
It certainly beats the view from my home office. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
What's the view from your home office?
It's just another house.
Another, okay. Yeah, I can see a tree.
Yeah,
that's my view. Yeah, we're all remote workers these days. So, Toby, when you're not here, what's your day job?
So I work with you, alongside you, I guess. So I'm the digital editor for Yachting World, Yachting Monthly, Practical Boat Owner, and Motorboat and Yachting, which is our stable of magazines. So I look after web content, social content, this stuff. So that's me, really. I come from a journalism background, and digital is the latest string to my bow.
Yeah, very good.
And what about you, Theo?
Well, I edit Yachting Monthly for my sins. So I've been there a little while now. And I'm very lucky to do the job. It was always one of those jobs where you thought, that would be a great job to have, wouldn't it? And then I got it, and it's mine. I'm keeping it for now. So as long as it's up to me, and they let me stay, then getting to talk about boats, think about boats, write about boats, edit things about boats is almost as good as going sailing for a job. Yeah,
it's not a bad life. I mean, my friends all think it's a better life than it maybe actually is sometimes, but it's not bad compared to...
it's pretty good. We definitely can't complain, I don't think. And I do get to go boat testing as well on a few new boats, which is a bit of a perk of the job, I suppose.
Yeah.
Good. Well, as you may have worked out, we are two... And we were just saying whether we're middle-aged or not. I suspect we are. We're in our 40s.
I think we officially count as middle-aged.
Yeah, we've both got facial hair.
Yeah.
Floppy hairdos, and
I think if we say we're aiming...
A little bit of grey in our beards, so...
If we say we're aiming for 100, then we're not quite middle-aged yet, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe let's say that.
Yeah, fine. We still think of ourselves as young, even if we're not.
Yeah.
And we are just going to be talking, hopefully not rubbish, but this is a fun chat, literally in a yacht club bar, about sailing and...
hopefully not exclusively rubbish, although I can't... maybe sometimes I might.
I'm sure they'll tell us in the comments if we are talking too much rubbish. And obviously we're going to have a beer, but it's the middle of the day. Well, it's gone midday. It's all right to have a beer. We're both driving home though, so we're being responsible. Low alcohol, no alcohol, zero alcohol. So anyway, what's better than having a beer in a yacht club bar and talking about sailing?
That's the aim of the game, right?
Yeah. So today we thought, I thought we could start with, so last time we chatted and we were finding out about how we each got into sailing and your story of getting into being initiated into the world of dinghy racing.
And you were trying to sell me on the joys of cruising.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, maybe you'll have to take me racing and I'll take you cruising. And, we'll see what we think after we've sort of had a day in each other's shoes.
Maybe, yeah.
But today I thought it might be fun to embarrass ourselves and find out about times that we have cocked up on the water. You're obviously not a sailor if you haven't made at least a few mistakes.
Yeah.
If you haven't gone aground, you've not been trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Or almost certainly, if we share some stories, people will say, well, of course you should have done this or that, and that is kind of the point.
Mm-hmm.
We're admitting that we are, I don't think we're claiming to be amazing sailors by doing this podcast. We're just boat geeks that like talking about sailing.
Exactly that, yes. I have plenty of embarrassing stories.
The enthusiastic amateur is probably the best definition.
Yeah, quite.
So, Toby, tell me about a time in which you got it horribly wrong.
I'm going first, am I? Is that?
Well, I mean, I asked the question first. I got in there quickly.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, I was thinking about this. There have been a number of occasions, as you mentioned, as we sort of discussed in the last podcast. My background is racing sailing, so most of my big embarrassing moments come from either racing or training. The first thing that came to mind when I saw this question, when you emailed this through to me, was I grew up racing dinghies. I went through the really classic UK youth system, and after graduating out of 29ers, I moved into 49er racing. And I remember this, it was middle of February, maybe March, like a winter series,
chilly,
proper chilly. And my club racing had just been called off for the day because it was blowing not hugely windy. It was like 22, 23, 24 knots, something like that. So relatively top end for dinghy racing. They called off the club race entirely sensibly because it was cold. Not that many people were that keen. But we were sort of 49er training, and the 49ers then had a class rule that you raced up to 25 knots. If it ticked over 25 knots, racing was cancelled. So me and my crew, Rich, we sort of thought, well, we need to be able to race in this.
Yeah.
So, okay, racing cancelled, we'll go out training for the day. Rigged up the 49er, went out training, and in high performance boats, there's like we call it the death zone. So between beating and heading downwind, all that kind of reach angle is kind of a no-go zone. So 49er sailing, you get to the windward mark, and then you've got a big, pretty ropey bear off, and then you can set the kite, and then you're both back on the twin wires again.
Why is that? Is that you're bearing away, the rig's powering up, and you've got no easy way of depowering?
Yeah, exactly.
And you've got to get down.
And because the boats we race on exclusively windward leeward courses, so the boats are super overpowered. And downwind, once you've got the kite up and you're both out on the wire, more power just means faster, which means more apparent wind, which means sailing.
And you've got
lower.
an easy enough way of depowering, which is just bearing away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, they don't do any reaching, and the boats are ludicrously overpowered for reaching. And you usually have a knot in the main sheet, so if you drop the main, it doesn't go out that far, so you can't
dump the main
that far, and the vang doesn't go off that loose. And so, you've got this kind of danger zone. So, bearaways are a big, kind of big capsize possibility. So it's pretty windy, it's pretty lumpy. We go to do our first bearaway. We're sort of set up. We think it's fine. Rip the boat away, and nose just goes straight into a wave. Boat pitch poles, capsize, and okay, fine. That like 49er training in that sort of weather, I would expect to capsize on a number of occasions. So that's kind of fine. But when we get the boat back up, we're out with our oldest training sails on, and the foot of the jib has just separated from where the downhaul's tied to the boat,
Yeah.
and the jib's shot up the mast.
So the tack's gone.
The tack's gone. The whole thing, like,
Oh right, the whole foot's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
entirely separated, not fixable.
Yeah.
But we get the boat back up, and the boat, obviously, when it pops back upright, we're going upwind again. Now we've got to do the big bear off in the same breeze, with the same waves, but
Yeah.
with no jib to help get the bow round.
Right. Okay.
So we were sort of feeling like we'd be fine. There's a way you can, because the 49ers they've got big solid wings on them.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can bury the windward wing, both hold onto the wire, you bury the windward wing, and then that gives you a bunch of righting moment, and you bear off with the wing buried, and then like all the water weight on the wing allows you time to sort of get downwind. So we knew about that. We tried it once, failed, capsized. Tried it another time, failed, capsized. Next time we try it, we're fine. We sort of think, okay, we're getting back. Unbeknownst to us, some very helpful person on the shore had called the RNLI, because what they saw was people having capsized in a lot of wind, like this ripped sail, and then a capsize, and then another capsize, and they thought, oh, these guys are obviously in trouble. So the RNLI, like, rescue boat fully comes out to rescue us, and we're like, oh no, we're all right. And they will not take no for an answer. So it's like, okay, well, you take us home. But I was probably 16 at the time, and what I haven't said is we were probably being 16, 17-year-old boys about it when we went out, and the sailing was cancelled, and we were kind of giving it, we'll go out racing in this. So I cannot explain to you the indignity of all my friends being on the shore and us being towed home by an RNLI boat with a broken boat. The amount of embarrassment, I never lived it down. And to this day, I see friends from then, and they remind me.
Yeah, you're the ones that had to come back in by lifeboat.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a pretty embarrassing moment, I have to say. Being rescued by the RNLI.
I mean, they do an amazing job.
They do an amazing job, and it was great of them to come out, and I've no qualms with the person on shore having said, I think people are in trouble, I should do the right thing, that's all great. But to 16-year-old me, my ego was bruised, and it took a long time for me to get over that one. So that's the first of my embarrassing stories.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
What about you? Have you been rescued by the RNLI, Theo?
I haven't. I have had to be rescued by Sea Start, which is where you sort of preemptively think I might need to be rescued, and you pay somebody in advance to save you the indignity of having to be rescued by the RNLI.
Okay.
So it's not a million miles away from that, but I was fortunate enough. My parents had a cruising boat, a little old Halberg Rassi 31, which they kept in Gosport for a little while. And I thought, but I was young 20s, and I was sort of qualified, and they were happy for me to take the boat out. So I thought I'd go out for a little sail for a weekend, and just across the water over there is Newtown Creek. And if you've been into Newtown Creek?
I don't think I have.
It's stunning. It's beautiful. I mean, as an East Coast boy, you'd probably appreciate it. There's little creeks, and it's really unsport. It's a little nature reserve. So it's probably one of my favourite harbours in the Solent. It's just absolutely stunning. There's little colony of seals that live there.
They're cute.
So I thought, do you know what? I'll sail from Gosport. It's an easy sail. It's 10, 12 miles, something like that, down to Newtown Creek from Gosport. I'll go in, I'll anchor up overnight. I was working nearby locally, and I just had a weekend to myself, so I thought, this is in the old days when we were young and free and could just go, I've got a free weekend, what shall I do with it? So I went sailing, and I thought, and I could handle the boat by myself, so I thought, I'll be fine, I'll go down there. Obviously it was November, and I still thought it was a good idea, so the days were quite short, and it got dark. It took me a bit longer to get myself organised and get out, and by the time I was sort of going past Cowes, it was kind of getting dark. And if you've ever been into Newtown Creek, it's the entrance is probably about as wide as this bar. It's about 50 yards wide, and it's unlit. There's one little tiny buoy that's lit about 200 metres offshore.
Right.
And then you go in and you use a torch to find the leading marks, and you're going through the leading marks, and you basically follow your echo sounder in, and just when you think you're going to hit the beach, there's this little tiny gap that you go in through, and you motor in and you find one of the there's some mooring buoys and all that kind of stuff, so you just pick up a mooring buoy, and it's absolutely idyllic. And at that time of year, absolutely nobody around, so you've got the whole place to yourself. So there I was, sailing, getting towards winter, and it was dark, and I was by myself. Still hadn't figured out that, I don't know, risk assessments at that age are slightly different, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, it's self-preservation.
Yeah, so then I was like, right, nearly there, and the wind was building, and it was a northerly actually, so that means that it's blowing you into the harbour, and effectively you're approaching a lee shore, that's a lee shore apart from this 50-yard gap. So there I was, and I was like, right, time to get the sails down. Went to start the engine, I got the main down. No, I think I still had the sails up at that point, because I was like, I'll start the engine, then I'll get the sails down. Started the engine, put the main away, put it into gear, and about 10 seconds, engine stopped, and I realised that one of the jib sheets, the figure of 8 had come untied in the end of the jib sheet, gone overboard in the dark.
Oh no.
And gone round the propeller. So then I still had sails, so I was like, I could start sailing again, but then I've got to find another harbour that I can get into under sail in the dark, single-handed. So I thought, safest, quickest place to get into now is into Newtown. I'll keep on going into Newtown. I've got jib on one sheet, I can sail downwind with that, that's fine, even if it's not ideal. Untied the sail so I could furl it away. Anyway, I started sailing in, no engine, in the dark, and it was also a flood tide with a northerly wind, which meant that it was all going in the same direction. My cunning plan was that I would turn the boat up head to wind, just as I came next to one of the buoys, and I'd grab it and hook on, and it would all be fine. But obviously I didn't have any way of speeding the boat up again, so once I'd stopped the boat, I had to get it right, otherwise that was all my steerage way gone. I had no control. So then I went for the first buoy and inevitably missed it, at which point the tide just started sweeping me down without any steerage. I managed to get a little bit of steerage just from the wind pushing me in, so that I could grab. So I tried the manoeuvre again, and I grabbed as I was going past one of the other buoys, I grabbed a second buoy. Obviously you've got, how heavy is the boat? 4 tons, something like that, with quite a strong tide coming in and the wind behind it, and I just grabbed it, and it literally just took the skin off my hands. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I've missed the first buoy, I've missed the one in the middle of the line, and there's quite a sort of stony, had a few old wooden pilings on the sort of foreshore. So I might be about to go aground in the middle of the night in my parents' boat with no engine. Now, this isn't quite what I'd planned for the weekend. Anyway, I was then, in the few brief moments I had, I'd already got a mooring line out. So then I got a mooring line, tied it onto the stern cleat, ran forwards just as I was going past a buoy, and managed to hook the buoy, and in the time that the buoy was going past the boat, I managed to get this line through the eye of the buoy. My heart rate was absolutely pounding at this point. Get the other end of the line, so I'd done that to just give myself a bit of time and a bit of slack to try and tie a knot on. And I just got the end of the mooring line a turn round the cleat as it disappeared off astern, and all of a sudden the boat just went doing and stopped dead. Horrible, more like bow down, buoy behind us somewhere, stern into the tide. But I was stopped and I wasn't aground. And then I put another line on the bow and gradually got the boat turned around and properly moored, while my heart rate slowly came down and I started to assess damage. Luckily, nothing had happened. But then I was like, how am I going to get out of this pickle? Because I'm now in a harbour that is not easy to sail out of, because you've got to get back through this little gap. And I'm by myself, so if I go into the water, in November. I didn't have a wetsuit with me. So I'm going to get quite cold quite quickly, and clearing a rope off a propeller is, if you've ever tried to do that, it's like locked solid, and you...
I have tried to do that.
You can tell me about your propeller incident.
It wasn't my fault, so I won't, because
Anyway, so then I decided that I would bite the bullet, pay to join Sea Start there and then. And in the morning, some kind soul came out in the rib. He brought his diving kit with him, and at slack tide, he got in the water and freed it off. It took him like 20 minutes to do. It would have.
I'm not surprised. I mean,
initially I was thinking, when you're not thinking logically, I was like, I should jump in the water now and clear it off. And then I was like, no, the tide's running really strongly. It's cold water and it's November and I'm by myself.
Yeah.
That might not be a good idea.
Yeah.
So I obviously had some sense of self-preservation at that point.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until the next morning, after the Sea Start guy had been and cleared the propeller, that I called my parents and said, just FYI, this is what I've done and this is where I am. And they're like, oh, well, I'm glad you're okay. Yeah. So, and then I was telling that story to somebody afterwards, and they were just like, why didn't you anchor?
Yeah.
And I was like, I spent all this time and energy and risk getting myself right next to the lee shore to try and pick up a mooring buoy. And I had an anchor right there. I could have just shoved it in and been absolutely fine. Either outside the harbour or inside the harbour, it wouldn't have been a problem.
But these things, they don't always occur.
No, and that's the obvious thing. And that's the thing about sort of seamanship, isn't it? That you kind of keeping yourself out of trouble and avoiding getting to that last bit. Like, in hindsight, with a bit more experience, I go, how do I slow this down, stop it, give myself time to sort myself out, maybe anchor, maybe wait until slack tide or slightly higher tide when there's a bit more room, and then go in.
It's odd, isn't it, as well? When things are going wrong, especially in bigger boats, there's a really weird... It's not often things go wrong super quickly. And there's like... in moments that things have gone wrong on bigger boats for me, like there's this sense of like panic building inevitability about
impending doom.
Yeah, and it's all just sort of going, and it can just send you into a real like spiral of panic, you know.
Yeah.
I came into moor up. I was on a race boat and I was driving into moor up alongside a number of boats at Cowes during Cowes Week, and it was a race boat, so it had a folding prop. And I came in probably a bit showily at too much pace and whacked the boat in reverse, and nothing happened because like the water was streaming over the folding prop, and even though it was spinning in reverse, it wouldn't pop out.
Yeah, the prop just folded.
Yeah, it just folded flat, and I couldn't get it to pop out. And really, if I'd have thought about it, I could have just popped us into gear again, steered off, been fine. But in my panic, it was all just coming at me quickly. I was just whacking it into reverse, until I just eventually, like, just glancing, just hit off another boat. But I probably had like a few minutes to think about it. But as it was going wrong, like, that panic sets in.
And I think the same for like marina mooring, when you're going into a marina berth. And then, I mean, all skip, myself included, have done it, where you're there shouting at the crew, just jump, or just get a line on the cleats. And they're going, what do you mean, what line, what cleat?
Yeah.
And it is like watching this sort of slow motion tragedy, isn't it? It's like, because it's all happening at like 3 knots. It's like some like comedy sketch of like, but because the loads are so big and it's so hard to like maneuver the boat and get it where you want it and predict all of the forces and the tide and the wind and stuff, and even at 2 knots, an impact with a sharp pontoon corner can do some damage.
Yeah, and it's an expensive thing. You know, it's not...
and it's quite often not necessarily yours. It's a charter or it's of friends or parents or whatever. Yeah, you sort of have these. The stakes are quite high, even if the speeds are low, and it sort of is this sort of slightly comic disconnect of like.
Yeah, absolutely. This slow unfolding,
slow motion panic.
Yeah. It's scary stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's rare that these things end up in any sort of like real damage. I think that's. I don't think I've broken a few masts on a few racing dinghies and stuff like that. I've lost a spinnaker over the side of a yacht, which was entirely my fault, and that was gone to the deep. But it's rare coastally, I'd say, that there are cock-ups that we make that have huge implications.
Yeah, on that.
But I think we all cock up pretty regularly in a small way that feels big at the time.
Yes, yeah.
You know.
Well, that's the learning process, and if you're not messing up, you're not trying hard enough, probably. Hi guys, sorry to interrupt the podcast, but I wanted to share a quick message from our sponsor, His Majesty's Coast Guard. Things can quickly go wrong at sea. As we all know, the main factor in improving our safety out on the water is being prepared before setting out. It's easy to become complacent, especially if you feel you know your local waterways, coastline and vessel really well. But simple checks can help ensure trouble-free sailing for you and your crew. His Majesty's Coast Guard, the RNLI and the RYA have launched a collaboration called Reduce the Risk, Boost Your Skills. The aim is to encourage recreational boaters, that's you, to properly consider safety and preparation before heading out on the water. Refreshing your knowledge or taking a course to learn more about the principles of sailing, navigation and boat maintenance is a good place to start, as is always wearing a life jacket, carrying a means of calling for help, and briefing your crew on what should happen in an emergency. Checklists are a really helpful way of making sure nothing gets missed. Free printed boating safety checklists are available to order online and include tips and guidance for pre-season checks, radio equipment and emergency action plans. These waterproof booklets are entirely free and can be ordered on the Coast Guard's website at hmcoastguard.uk/checklist. Also remember, if you're in trouble at sea or on the coast, call the Coast Guard on VHF radio channel 16 or phone 999 and ask for the Coast Guard. Right, thanks for listening. Now back to the podcast.
This is why we practice seamanship things, right?
Yeah.
Because that slowing down in the moment, you know, you and I have done articles practicing Man Overboard.
Yeah, Toby, we threw Toby in to see what the process for, on that one we were practicing what the process of getting back to you was, weren't we? And it was a really interesting experience.
I found that such a rewarding day. I went into it thinking, oh, well, we'll, you know, this would be good for an article and we'll learn some things. But what I thought I came out of that day with was, even in a sort of, we had a rib with us, like in a sort of safety control.
It was all sort of risk, well, more or less risk assessed with safety boat, but it was quite a controlled environment.
I think there might have been forms. I think we might have had to fill out forms. Yeah. But even then, that sort of slight sense of panic as it unfolded existed at the first. We did, I think, 3 or 4 different pickups. And by the end of the day, I felt much more confident doing manoeuvres that I could probably do at the start of the day, but having just done them fairly recently to pick people up was really useful. And I think just that kind of familiarity allows you the brain space to sort of think about, okay, the problem solving of what do I need to do.
Just as a matter of interest, what was the experience like being the man overboard in the water and watching a yacht sailing away from you?
Yes, not great actually. I mean, I was really glad we had a rib fairly nearby with a photographer and a team on it. Yeah. And I was also really glad it was not a wavy day. Yeah. I think, had there have been any significant chop, I think that would have been, even in that controlled environment, a pretty panicky experience.
I think it would have been genuinely dangerous.
Yeah, and you know, it's surprising how small, from that position in the water, it's surprising how small a yacht looks. Yeah. So you sort of, I think you would start the engine, furl the jib, and then sort of tack round to start coming back so you could get upwind of me. And in that time, furl the jib, start the engine, from the water, you nearly disappeared out of my sight. Yeah. And I thought that was again, that was a really surprising element of just,
Yeah.
God, like if we were less prepared for that and there were a few waves,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be able to see you almost immediately.
Well, we were going to talk about something else today, but I think now that we've got onto the topic of man overboard, it's probably worth spending a bit of time on, because we've had our day on the water together, and I've done a couple of other sort of experiments for the magazine about just what it's like going overboard from a yacht. And I think that from my perspective, when I was chucking you in the water and coming back to get you, the interesting thing was that at the time what I wanted to do was try out what the textbooks say a man overboard procedure looks like for and the textbooks generally are written from the point of view of there being a crew on board, a full crew, where you've got somebody who can point, somebody who can get man overboard kit out, and somebody who's helming and skippering, and another person putting out a VHF call. And the sort of the concept that I wanted to try out was actually a lot of people, when they go cruising sailing at least, are sailing, and potentially racing, they're sailing two-handed. A husband and wife, or a racing, double-handed racing or whatever.
Real growth area, double-handed.
Yeah, massively. So if one of you goes overboard, the other person is solo on board, in which case you've got a whole lot of stuff to do to get the man overboard back. And if you follow the textbooks, or what the process that's sort of laid down for a fully crewed yacht, my view was that it's actually dangerous to do that. For example, you're meant to put out a VHF Mayday call, but if you do that on a lot of boats, you have to go down below to do that. And if you time reading a Mayday script, it's about a minute of script by the time you said it fully. If you spend a minute down at the chart table, your man overboard is going to be gone and dead. You haven't got time to do that, and you're going to have not looked out for them. So how do you prioritise pointing at the man, what you do with the sails, when you drop the sails, when you throw the kit in, what you do? And so we went through this whole process to look at the manoeuvre of getting back to the person in the water if there's only one of you on board. And I found it fascinating, because you have to effectively completely redesign the process, or at least understand what your priorities are, in what order you're going to do stuff. And having the kit ready to do it is crucial. So if you're sailing solo, for example, it is not a good idea to go down to the chart table to put out a VHF call at any point. But if you've got a handheld or a fixed VHF with a command mic on deck that's got a DSC button, you do have time to lift the flap, press the DSC button, and send out a distress call. And then you've done that bit, and you can do that on deck without having had to leave the cockpit, which is massive, because you can do that whole thing looking at your man overboard in the water. And then obviously you don't want to go too far away. So I think we decided that the thing that worked best for us on that day was just, as soon as there's a man overboard, you crash tack it. So you do a crash tack, and the boat is then stopped, the jib's back, so you're effectively Hove-To, and that gives you a minute or two. You can you're then hopefully still within, by the time you've stopped, you've got a little bit of control, so you can stop the boat reasonably close to your man, so that you can chuck your man overboard kit in. At that point you can talk to them, you can potentially start the engine, you can work out a plan of how you're going to get back to them, and from there you can put your sails away.
Yeah, I remember our finding, and I thought it was really fascinating that we sort of concluded that actually if you crash tack and end up Hove-To, like you say, you can speak to them, and in those conditions, it would probably be different if it was like stormy or particularly wavy. But in pretty normal coastal conditions, you can get back to your casualty pretty quickly, 90% of the time, and pick them up first pass. And that seemed to be the easiest way to go about things. And in that case, you don't, probably better to get that done than go below and deliver a long VHF message.
Exactly. The other thing that I did subsequently, which is actually almost equally as interesting, was that I went in as the man overboard on a different occasion and on a different boat. But the training that I had done in the past had focused on that manoeuvre of getting back to the man overboard in the water. And normally that man overboard was a couple of fenders tied to a bucket, and when you got there you get a boat hook and you fish it out and you go, I've done. And I'm actually really pleased because I did my Yachtmaster last year, and I'm pleased to see that the RYA has massively changed its focus, because the man overboard exercise isn't finished until you have got your man overboard back on deck.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know that.
Including the proper lifting processes. And this was the interesting thing when I did the man overboard, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now. I jumped off it was an article that Rachel Sprott had written for us, I think, and we went on a Naiad 390, so quite a big, heavy displacement boat, and it was a force 5, but we went into the lee of the land, so it was completely flat and not too much wind. And I jumped overboard, and Rachel then manoeuvred the boat round to come and pick me up. And we were basically testing a whole range of kit, so from John buoys and dam buoys to horseshoe buoys and lifting strops and all that kind of stuff, of how are we going to get this person out of the water, mob mats and all that kind of stuff, sort of sails to lift somebody out with. And one of the interesting things was that even in relatively normal winds, force 5 isn't particularly windy and it was flat water, from the time that I was alongside the boat at the shrouds to when the boat had drifted past me and I was off the stern was about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So having put me alongside, there was only 30 seconds to actually...
Tiny window, isn't it?
Yeah, tiny window, and in waves that would be even worse, or open water, to get me back onto the boat or to get me connected in some way. And the amazing thing was that every single method of recovery depended on me assisting in my own recovery. So putting on a horseshoe buoy, putting a sling around my arms, taking a line, because what you can't do is when you're wearing a life jacket from on deck, say you're 1 metre, 2 metres up of freeboard, you can't hook somebody, you can't get to them, or you can get a hook to them, but the lifting strops are flat on the life jacket, the D-ring is hidden by the bladders of the life jacket, and there was only actually one device that made a difference. It's the MOB Lifesaver, and I'm not meaning to give like a plug to one product. You could make your own with a bit of string at home, but it's a Dyneema loop that's 2 metres long, and when your life jacket goes off, you can then sorry, in the yacht club bar. When the life jacket goes off, this sling goes out on the water, and you can actually hook that with a boat hook really easily, and then it's long enough to lift it onto the cleat on the side deck, or tie it onto a stanchion or something. So then you're attached, whether the person in the water is unconscious or not. Tell you what, I'll show you. My life jacket's over there. I actually brought my life jacket with me today.
Yeah, sure, show.
So yeah, you've got your... There we go. Right, let's fit this on. I think this might be my wife's life jacket.
Either that or you put on a
I think it's probably, more likely that. There you go. Right, so stick my life jacket on. There we go. Like that. Oh, there we go. Is that gone?
Back. Yeah,
that's it. Right, and then this little loop, there we go. That little loop floats out. That's really long, and it's got a little thing that holds it open.
Okay.
And that, in our whole man overboard thing, I mean, if you haven't ever tried doing this, do it, because it is really eye-opening of what it actually feels like to be in a life jacket in the water and just...
I would always advocate, obviously, for, if you're unconscious, a life jacket will save your life. But something I was going to touch on was just how in the way the life jacket was doing man overboard practice.
Yeah.
It inhibits everything. And when you're in the water and it's pulling up, if you don't have all your straps as tight as possible, you
have to have your crotch. I haven't put the crotch strap on now because I'm sitting down, but you have to have the crotch strap on, otherwise this just goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you can't hear me. I don't know if that's probably right on top of my mic.
Probably is. Yeah.
Can't hear anything I'm saying. There we go. But yeah, because then that goes up on deck. I'm going to take this off now.
But yeah, I can see, the ability to get a boat hook onto something and then whip that onto deck and have you attached.
Yeah, but the interesting thing that they've changed in the RYA Yachtmaster now as well is that you then have to think about how to lift the person out of the water, because we did it just at the end of summer, like September, something like that, and the water was warm, and I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt or whatever, and then a dry suit, a proper full-on dry suit and a life jacket. And after about half an hour in the water, I found it much, much harder to climb up out of the water on a ladder or whatever it was. And so in properly cold water, when you're not in a dry suit, your ability to assist in your own rescue really quickly drops off.
Yeah.
I was amazed at that, because I'm reasonably fit and healthy and strong, but even so, in warm water, my ability to help dropped off really quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that all this kit that depends on the person in the water being conscious and able to help isn't that helpful. You have to plan on getting them out of the water unconscious, or unable to assist anyway.
Yeah.
And this thing, and then you clip that onto either a halyard that goes to a powered winch.
Yep.
If you clip that straight onto a halyard that goes to a normal halyard winch, you will not, particularly if your partner is smaller than you, they will probably struggle to winch you out of the water, because they'll be lifting 100 kilos plus on that halyard, which it's not designed to do. So then you have a block and tackle, like a handy billy 6-to-1, and that bit of string and a 6-to-1 block and tackle, in my view, is absolutely essential kit, particularly on a cruising boat, but on any boat. I mean, was it last year that somebody went off overboard off St Catherine's Point, about 200 metres off the rocks, in big waves, really big conditions. And that was sketchy, because then the rest of the crew's life jackets went off as well, because the conditions were that bad, and they were only 200 yards of getting sort of dashed to pieces on the rocks. They great, all credit to them, they got their chap back and carried on. But if you haven't thought about how to physically lift a person out of the water, and all the other bits of kit struggled, where that and a handy billy worked, and this isn't necessarily sort of uniformly accepted, but the RYA has now, certainly when I did the Yachtmaster last year, they're teaching that you have that handy billy, and you get a strop around them, and a way of throwing a strop around the man overboard that doesn't need them to help. So anyway, if you haven't ever tried lifting somebody back on board, put your boat alongside a pontoon, get them to lie on the pontoon in their life jacket, as if they were in the water, and just experiment with trying to lift them back on board.
Bucket of water over them.
A bucket, just for good measure. So they don't fall asleep on the pontoon.
Exactly.
I mean, you can do it. You could do it in the marina with them in the water, but I'm not necessarily going to say, from a health and safety point of view, jumping into the marina is not what we would recommend. But doing it in a sheltered environment, either on the pontoon or in the water or whatever, is a really useful learning experience.
And I think that really touches on, you sort of having to caveat that. Really touches on something that's really difficult about this. When we went out and did 2-person man overboard practice, like, right, what does the RYA say? You, as a body, as a governing body, or us as journalists, we have to, if we're going to say this is, how a system that worked for us, you have to sort of, firstly, know that that's repeatable for anyone, and by necessity, those kind of outlines of how to do a certain method kind of have to be applicable for everyone broadly, and have been presumably signed off by a lawyer somewhere. And really, nothing beats going out and doing this for yourself and going, how do I react? How does it work best for me? Because the methodology that we broadly came up, which is kind of crash tack and get them back on board, I wouldn't necessarily advise for everyone in all conditions. So you kind of have to put a little caveat of it's kind of vibes based. If you think you can do that,
maybe they'll put that in the textbooks.
Do you think?
See how the vibes feel.
But I mean, it is that, and I think it's a real difficulty when we're talking about this sort of safety stuff. I think you have to do it. Mostly, you have to go out and give something, or at least something approaching it.
I know a friend whose dad decided that it would be good to do a practice man overboard in the middle of an Atlantic crossing, and thought the best way to do that was by jumping overboard. This wasn't some sort of desperate plea for help. It was this will be fun. And literally, as he hit the water and looked up, he realised how bad an idea he had just had was. They did manage to rescue him because he survived to tell the tale. But in those moments where the first swell came past and he lost sight of the boat,
Yeah,
he had a moment of that wasn't necessarily the best thing to have done in that moment.
What I mean, thankfully he's all right. Like
Yeah.
I say, but what a bloody stupid way to die that would be.
Yeah.
Your last minute's thinking, oh.
Yeah, so and that's another thing is that actually you can get these man overboard dummies that weigh like 100 kilos or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, you're not going to buy one of those if you're a private individual. When a sort of a 100-kilo sort of dead body weight turns up in a box on your doorstep, you're gonna worry. But if you order those mail order, but for example, a yacht club or a sailing club, I think would be well placed to go. Let's have one of those as a club training facility, and then you can borrow the man overboard for an afternoon, take it out, and try how you as a crew do it. Because if you've never done it, and then somebody goes overboard, you're not going to know how to do it, and it's not going to go well if you haven't practiced it.
Yeah, and it is, again, it's that what we spoke to previously about if someone's gone overboard and you haven't practiced, it's that slow inevitability of we need to get them back on board, we need to get the boat stopped. It's all happening, and it's panic stations way too quickly, and no one makes good decisions in a panic. You know.
And then when you read the accident reports afterwards, and there are sadly some real tragedies that have happened where somebody goes into the water fit and healthy and are responsive and helping in those initial minutes after the man overboard, but by the time they're sort of half an hour into the rescue, not everybody survives that, because it is that time in the water that is really costly. So slowing down, taking your time and getting it right first time is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having practiced it.
Friend of my family lost his life that way.
Really?
Yeah. It happens. It happens more than I think.
Yeah.
You know, not all
It doesn't
the time.
happen that much. Sailing is safe and enjoyable and fun. Gin and tonic at the end of the day, not while you're sailing in case something bad happens. Nice anchorages, all of that. But yeah, I feel the need to lighten the mood a little bit. So I think we should move on from death. Let's get rid of that. Don't need those. Sailing is all fun. So I think it's probably about that time of the podcast where we look at some fantasy boat shopping.
Yeah, and this week it's real fantasy boat shopping. The last time we did this, we were looking at sub £5,000.
5,000, and you can get some good boats.
Yeah, plenty of good boats on the market, but I think it's fair to say that was a limiting.
It was slightly
price
limiting.
point.
Yes.
So, what price point are we going for this week, Theo?
We are going to win the lottery this week. Well, I don't know which lottery, but I'm going to give you, hypothetically, £1 million.
Yeah, this. I mean, in many ways, this was easier, and in quite a few ways, it was quite a lot harder as well.
Yeah.
I've gone two different routes. I've picked out a couple.
So what have you got? Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So
I think we should probably share screenshots of these boats that we're looking at.
Yeah. So this is what I've picked out here. This is a Solaris 50.
Oh, very nice.
It's on.
Let's have a look.
It's on at the moment for. I think it's 950,000. It's a 2023 Solaris 50. 950,000 sterling. I have sailed one of these. Sailed it briefly after it was launched. Stepped on one at Cannes Cannes Boat Show when it was launched, and pretty immediately fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some caveats. Obviously, if I've won only £1 million on the lottery, I can buy this boat. Yeah. But I almost immediately have to sell this boat.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming I'm just going to be able to berth it somewhere somehow for free.
Yeah. Don't worry about running costs.
All that caveat.
There we go. Yeah.
And in which case, you know, beautiful. As much as I love sailing around the UK, the Solaris 50, with the wind on the nose in the English Channel,
it's not really. It's not a UK.
Yeah.
It's not sort of Northern Europe battling it out against the elements.
No, we are very firmly in the Med.
Yes.
I think. But
I'm looking at a lovely picture there of a bimini. A lovely open wide decks.
I mean it's the sleek deck. They've done so much work on the 50. The 40 is just as nice, but everything runs under deck, and so you
super clean lines.
Yeah, sailing it if you're alone, massive rig plan up. Yeah. Sailing it, you've got nothing but flat deck in front of you
Yeah.
and sea.
Yeah,
and
you get that sort of super yacht feel of I'm on top of the world right
yeah,
now.
it's real, like, it is real won the lottery, dreamy luxury boat time.
Yeah.
But, and like down below, it's obviously, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. There's like, the owner's cabin is wonderful.
Yeah, lots of recessed lighting and real wood and
the-
big beds and
Well,
big
that's
windows.
Really nice, and I know people get their bee in their bonnet about production yachts looking a bit IKEA and all that jazz. But I think
Hey, IKEA's a very fashionable shop.
yeah, and I think
Very stylish. Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that on the interior of a boat, but there's something quite special about. I think Solaris do a really good interior job.
Yeah.
And it feels properly high end.
Yeah.
So my first pick coming in at about 40 grand under budget.
Yeah.
Assuming no running costs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one for
40
me.
grand, so you got a little bit of spare for a bit of refit work.
I could
or
probably
buy a
run it
new
for
jib,
month.
maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, fill up the tank once.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
they are beautiful.
Yeah, no, they're
boats.
stunning.
For a purpose.
Yeah.
You wouldn't keep it in the UK, and
Yeah.
it's neither a racer or
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was a little, I don't know. Sorry, there we go. It's a bit difficult, isn't it, when you've got this much money? I mean, other than solving world hunger and all that kind of stuff, if you spend it on £1 million on a boat.
I mean, $1 million to solve world hunger feels a bit ambitious, but
No, but you'd be able to do a little
could
bit.
feed some
there
people.
You go, and get yourself your Wayfarer.
yeah, true.
Yeah, very good. So my first boat, I don't know if I'd actually go for this, but I quite like the look of a Rapido 50.
Oh yeah.
There we go. That's for sale in Singapore at the moment. £941, 903.
They are great.
No, £941,000, I should have said. I got confused with the numbers again.
Okay.
I do words, not numbers. But that is a super cool trimaran.
Yeah.
That is capable of almost 30 knots on a reach. It's offshore capable, super fast. You effectively get a 50-foot boat that can sail. It doesn't heel, 5-8 degrees of heel maybe while you're underway. Super lightweight, super powerful, but also built with, I believe, quite a lot of sort of margin of safety so that it's safe. I mean, that's always the thing that worries me about multi-hulls is with a monohull you can get knocked flat and pop back up again.
Yep.
And on a multi-hull you have to sail within your numbers and sort of not get close to sort of pushing it too hard.
It's just a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But I've sailed a few sort of small trimarans, cruising trimarans, and they are quick. Like properly quick, and normal life can carry on. So you can have the boat going at 15, 20 knots, and normal life carries on as if you're in harbour because it's completely level. But I feel like a trimaran for me appeals a lot more than a catamaran because you still get quite a lot of feel. You get a little bit of heel. You've got a single rudder, unless you're on a super high performance trimaran. But it feels like you're sailing a monohull just with like turbochargers in the floats just give you so much form stability, and you don't have a big heavy keel.
Yeah.
That in a 50-foot monohull you're maybe doing, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 knots, something like that. And this you're cruising at 20, 25 knots. So your range just goes up massively.
Yeah, and again, we've spoken, I think on a previous podcast about, being a bit time poor.
Yeah.
The difference that speed makes in terms of where you can get to in a weekend, and therefore, you can take a few weekends to coast hop, and you can be on holiday for a week in Cornwall.
The downside of a 50-foot trimaran is it's quite a big boat, and you've got a very big beam. But the Rapido, the floats fold in, so you can get into like a 6-metre wide berth, 5-metre wide berth, something like that. Other boats that appealed, an AML 50.
Yep.
Proper blue water cruiser, go anywhere. And AMLs have always been really good on sort of resilience and redundancy. So rather than just relying on, say, an electronic sensor if you're a fuel tank, you'd also just have a traditional sight, glass sight.
Yeah.
So you can physically see, or you'd have a dipstick so you can just see. So they've kind of built in this, like, just stick with the basic solution. You can have your gauges and everything, but if they go haywire, then actually it's really useful to be able to. There's loads of just really sensible ideas built into AMLs, and I really like that.
ML50, I think, remains one of the most popular boat tour videos, boat test videos that Toby Hodges has done on Yachting World. It's always up there. People seem to love it.
Yeah. So I've got the Rapido 50, the AML 50. This one I love, Garcia Exploration 45. Proper hardcore expedition, high latitude. Pete Goss had one. Pearl of Penzance, he sailed across the Atlantic and went and did up into Canada. Where did they get to? Canada, I think. And then they had the opportunity to do something else, and COVID happened, and now they're doing other sailing. But that is a really, really cool boat. It's only 45 feet, so it's quite a lot of money for a smaller boat. Well, it's on at 827,000. So hey, I'm leaving some some money over.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? That immediately at the 1 million mark, most of what we're picking is 50.
Yeah, there was at £500,000.
Okay.
There are some really interesting boats out, but we'll do that out there, which I don't think are that different from the boats that you get for £1 million. So it'd be interesting to look at what the difference is between what you get for £500,000 and £1 million.
Yeah.
But if you can save yourself £500,000, that's potentially worth doing.
I would be happy if you gave me £500,000 tomorrow. I'd be very happy with that.
But the one that has really caught my eye this time is from 2003, so slightly older boat. I'm still under budget, 866, including VAT. Although I think that's in Europe, so if you brought it to this country, you'd have to pay VAT all over again.
Well, we're going to fold that in with the
sort
of berthing fees and all that.
But this is a Best of Air 65.
Oh, okay.
And so Best of Airs are made by KM Yacht Builders in Holland, and they build in aluminium, and they build really interesting, rugged, tough boats. But this one is a long, graceful. It's got a counter stern. It's got a raked, slightly spoon bow, lovely low coach roof, lots of wood. So it looks less utilitarian than some of the other Best of Airs. Some of them are like proper, just shiny aluminium, sort of not even polished aluminium expedition yachts. This one is obviously built in a similar kind of way, but it's just stunning. It looks like a proper classic yacht. You could sail into sort of, I don't know, one of the Mediterranean ports, and you'd sort of be right in there with the super yachts with this one. In boom or the main drops down into your sort of carbon fibre boom. It's just stunning. And then down below, loads of woodwork, leather upholstery, sort of nice old-fashioned sort of Chesterfield kind of look.
Are you going to take up smoking a pipe? Well, I feel like this has got pipe.
Well, that's the interesting thing about this boat, because I think the owner likes that sort of aesthetic, but it's actually a really tough aluminium go anywhere boat that just happens to look stunningly beautiful. So when you do anchor up in front of your glacier, you've got a very beautiful boat, pretty boat to take a photo of. Okay. So I think for my £1 million this week, that's what I'm going to go for. Fair
enough.
You had one more.
I did have one more. I thought I'd throw this in as a slight wild card. I have found on the market only €750,000.
Look at that. So what? That's like what, £600,000?
I mean, again, we've established that we can't do numbers.
Yeah.
It's less than £750,000.
There we go. Yeah.
Is a Class 40, a 2023 Class 40.
Let's have a look.
Now, I think with modern Class 40s, we do have to say, if you think beauty comes from function, then they are in their own way beautiful.
Yeah.
But the kind of scow bow route that the Class 40 class has taken, they are ugly ducklings to many. Yeah,
I mean, that looks like a brick smashing into a wave slightly, just to be rude. But at the same time, you look at it and you go, that's a really powerful hull, and that's going really quite quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, you wouldn't want to spend a lot of time going upwind in a big seaway in them.
Well, I don't think going downwind's that much more comfortable, is it, probably?
Well, they're pretty skimmy downwind. They look all right.
It's like a soap dish.
Yeah. Think more topper than
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
else. But I think what I thought was interesting, this popped up when I was, because I sort of set my price parameters. And what's really interesting about the Class 40, I love where the Class 40 fleet are going. You know, you've got Imoca 60s, Vendée Globe, they're your rock stars, and you know, yes, some people do adventure part of the Vendée, but the Class 40 is a kind of feeder fleet. And if you wanted to get pretty serious about racing, double-handed racing, and you want to compete with people that are kind of the best of the best that might well go on to sail in the Vendée, you could pick up a Class 40, you could race across the Atlantic. And the beautiful thing about sailing, I think, is, you know, yes, it's out of, we're sort of fantasy money, but it's not too far out of reach, and you could be racing against the absolute best. You know, it's the equivalent of buying, you know, a Formula 2 car. It's not quite Formula 1, but it's not far off, and it's people that would be in Formula 1. And for that sort of money, you know, when I was, the Solaris 50, beautiful, wonderful days out, rosé and muscles, great. But if you wanted to sail competitive offshore, you could pick up a Class 40.
Well, Rupert Holmes, who writes for Yachting World and Yachting Monthly from time to time, is currently sailing his way around the world on a Class 40, doing the Globe 40.
Well, exactly.
And he has just recently won the Round Britain and Ireland race on the same boat that they're now doing round the world on, which is, so he's, as far as I'm aware, he's having a blast of a time. But
and I think that's, personally, I think that's, you know, a normal-ish person. Obviously, you need sponsorship, you need a bit of money, but could buy a top-of-the-range, high-performance, ocean crossing boat and go out and compete with the top-of-the-line pros.
Well, I think that's one of the appealing things about sailing, because when I was a kid and racing a laser, at my sailing club, there were former Olympic sailors who'd sailed for England or Ireland, and they were slightly older, but they were still magicians at making their boats go quickly. And as a 16, 17-year-old lad sailing against them, it was amazing. Like, you can just turn up. My boat, I think my laser cost, I don't know, under £2,000, fairly knackered old boat. But I could get out on the start line and put myself against these guys week after week and figure out what they're doing and try and keep up with them and slowly get a little bit less far behind them on the race course. But I think that's the case certainly in the UK. All around the country there are these sailing clubs that are, like here in Lymington, there are a number of Olympians that have come from Lymington who still sail and race at their clubs and do local club racing, as well as the sort of the national elite performance stuff. And I think that's one of the things that is, so that in that sense sailing is really quite egalitarian, that sort of, and I noticed that as well from a cruising point of view. You can sail to a beautiful anchorage, you can sit there, drop your hook, have you go for a swim, have your beer on deck as the sun's going down and enjoy the same view. And it doesn't matter whether you're on that £5,000 boat or your £1 million boat. The access to those places and the adventures you can have is the same for everybody. And I feel like the sea is, if you can get afloat, the sea is just a great leveller, that sort of, the sea's the sea, and sort of everyone is just, I mean, obviously you can have fancy boats and less fancy boats, but actually the sea itself and where you're going is all the same, whoever you are and how much money you've got. And I think that's one of the things I love about sailing. But yeah, with the Class 40, so the idea that you could turn up and race against the world's best sailors is quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that sentiment entirely. I think it's a great part of our sport.
Good. Well, I think, have we got time to talk about some gear? Should we talk about some kit?
We can talk about some kit,
Yeah, good. Let's do it. Right. Well, we've already talked about life jackets and man overboard bits and bobs. I haven't got, maybe another time we'll bring in a whole load of kit and we can have a look at that. But I thought we would talk about torches today. And I've got a kit bag of sailing stuff, and being sadly boatless at the moment, I've got a number of items that if I'm going sailing on a boat for a week, I'll just put them in, like a hand bearing compass and my sailing knife and your life jackets and a few bits and bobs, and a decent torch is one of those things, because you get on a boat and actually the one time that I've needed my good torches this summer, I'd forgotten all of them. I just had a phone torch trying to find a mooring in the dark, and you realise just how completely useless it is. So I don't know. Have you got a favourite torch that you take on a boat?
I have. Now we've established that I'm largely a daytime sailor.
You're a fair weather, slightly soft, dinghy sailor who likes his food inside and a nice warm shower at the end of the day.
All of that, bar the slightly soft. So I honestly, you know, you are probably the guy to go to in torch terms. I do a fair bit of hiking.
Yeah.
So a lot of my best sailing kit
Yeah.
kind of serves multiple purposes. I've brought with me my favourite torch.
You keep it in a box. It's
It comes in a box and, and a bag.
wow.
The bag is for hiking. But this is it's an exposure head torch.
Okay.
And I love this little head torch. It's pretty lightweight, it's not too heavy, but crucially,
Yeah.
not right now. I can't remember. There is a red light.
So this, I've had various head torches like this, and I love them because they are incredibly bright.
Yeah.
And they're rechargeable. But you have to remember the right sequence of clicks.
Because I use it for hiking, I don't use the red light that often for it.
And if you're doing it regularly, it's really easy and it becomes quite intuitive. I don't know if it's not going to blind somebody to shine it in the into the camera. There we go. The exposure marine stuff is absolutely brilliant. I've used some of their sort of high power torches before, and they're completely bomb proof. They're sort of sealed in an aluminium body. This one's no different, is it?
Yeah, and I think crucially for me, a good...
Go on, let's see you wearing it, Toby.
A good head torch
Yeah.
really allows, like, a good head torch really allows you to do work with both
they're quite
hands.
sort of 1970s, aren't they? Nice sort of John McEnroe head.
Well, I think the moustache and the hair really help that look. But I think crucially, you know, if you're working on foredeck and it's dark, having a good head torch just allows you to use both hands. You can see what you're doing. This one I quite like that you can
you can
tilt
angle
down,
it. Yeah, that's nice.
So it angles either way.
Right, thank you.
Like I said, if you get the button press right, you can get red torch, so you don't lose your night vision. There's nothing.
Hang on, you've got instructions in here. Let's see what it says. Hang on, let's see. Keep on talking.
There's nothing. What I think what is great about this particular head torch is it doesn't do anything specific that any other head torch doesn't do, but everything it does pretty well, and I've never had any sort of water ingress problem with it, and I've had this for probably 8 years and used it quite a bit, and it's been great consistently.
Well,
great torch.
I thought I would bring my head torch along as well.
Oh, okay.
But this is a really basic head torch. It's a Petzl head torch, and it's got AA batteries in it. It's not the world's brightest torch, and it doesn't do red lights, and the elastic has pretty well gone in it now. It still fits, but the thing that I like about this is that you can just pop the elastic off, and this is actually the second elastic headband I've had for it, which makes it sound like the elastic's not very reliable. Something's just stopped. That camera's just stopped. But what I like about it is the elastic, and this is the second one I've had on it, which makes it sound unreliable. But I realised that I've had this head torch for 20 years now, and it's still going strong. It's still completely waterproof. You pop the back off, and you change the batteries. You've got 3 brightness settings. You can see it's not all that bright. I mean, I think the batteries are due for a change. 3 AA batteries, but on a yacht. So I've had rechargeable head torches, and I find that they just run out frustratingly quickly, and then they take quite a long time to charge, or they can take a while to charge up again. Whereas this, it's a little bit less sort of eco to throw the batteries away or recycle the batteries and have to put more batteries in. But you can get back to having power in your head torch instantly.
If that's a big issue, you could use rechargeable batteries.
And actually for head torches, I don't think they need to be that bright, particularly on a boat, because you don't want to blind yourself working on deck, and that's where a red torch comes in, I think. Because if you need a really bright torch on a boat, then you use a proper searchlight, and for me, this is where these bad boys come in.
You have been dying to get these out.
I have. So these ones are, as I said, well, I've tried the exposure ones. They are brilliant and bomb-proof, but they're quite expensive. These are a lot more affordable. This one's the 60, it says 1600 meters. Where's it got a model name on it? There we go. Luxstream SL100. They seem to change models relatively frequently, so that one might now be defunct. I've had it for a couple of years.
So is it by Nebo? Is that?
It's by Nebo, yeah. And that one is the big bad boy, and this, so that's 1600 and this is 1400. But the interesting thing with searchlights is that it's almost not about the lumens anymore, as about the lens that focuses it. So if you want it to go a long way, you don't necessarily need more power, you need more focus. So this one, I'll try not to, you can't blind anybody if they're looking at a computer screen, can you? If I shone this at a camera, here, so that's the floodlight one. If that's very bright, I don't know, I'm sorry.
If you're now blind, do comment
I
below.
don't think the physics of that work, because the computer screen would have to be as bright as a torch. But, so you've got a really good big flashlight, and then you've got this little paddle wheel to change the mode. So I can do it so that it's both, so it's combined floodlight and spotlight.
Yeah.
Or I can just have it on spotlight. And you can see there, you can see that little dot. You can probably see that. Shine it on myself. I'm not going to shine it in my eyes. But that, I've actually tested this out in dark. I've gone to a bay and stood on one side of the bay where I could measure the distance to the other side of the bay. And I've illuminated a house that was a mile away. Like properly painted the side of the house with this light. And actually coming into harbour looking for a mooring buoy or looking for a man overboard, and you can shine it a mile, is pretty cool.
There's something, even as an adult, there's some sort of great child-based joy.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't think I've ever turned this on and not at some point used it as a lightsaber.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is really cool, but in some ways I almost think it's too bright. It's classed as a laser product. It's a little.
I feel I should flag we've got a ferry about it.
Okay, I'm not going to. Yeah. I think you could take down aeroplanes with that one. It is classed as a laser product. I think this 400 one is actually in some ways a bit more useful. It's less bright, but it's got the same functions. Oh, this one does red as well. So it does red. It does a sort of a wide beam, and it also does a spotlight beam.
Yeah.
It's really light. It's small enough to go in your pocket. It doesn't really weigh anything.
Oh, that's remarkably light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I quite like the trigger grip. It's sort of slightly, I don't know, American police kind of style almost. But it's and it's also got. But one of the nice things about Nebo torches is you can actually change the batteries.
Okay.
So when the batteries die, as batteries inevitably do, you can actually swap out the batteries and put new ones in.
Yeah,
So I quite like that. And it's not that expensive. I think this one's, I don't know, I have to check, but I think it was about 60 or 70 quid, something like that. And that one's about 100 quid, whereas some of the really top-end ones are more like 200, 250 quid for a torch. And then I've got one more Nebo thing to show you, and an old-school solution. So when you're in harbour or you're anchor, it's really nice to have some low-level lighting, either as an anchor light, because you can have your masthead anchor light on a cruising boat, but then if you're coming in your dinghy, it's quite hard to see that when you're down at water level. So it's quite nice having something in the cockpit and illuminating the cockpit. And this is where this one comes in. This is equally a battery-powered little lantern. Lights up like that.
Yeah.
And you can have it on 3 brightness levels. So I use this camping quite a lot as well, but it makes a really good cockpit light as well.
Yeah.
And it has got, see if I can do it. It's got a red light function as well, and I can turn that red light function on. But it is battery powered, so it lasts quite a long time, but it will ultimately fade and you don't all go out and you don't know when that's going to happen. So I love, when I'm on a boat, I've got one of these. It's a little hurricane lantern. I got these in on a Christmas stall in Sweden one year, but they're so simple. They've got a little wick. I haven't got a match with me, so I'm not going to light it in the yacht club. I don't think they'd appreciate that, because they do smell a little bit and they do get a bit warm. But you can put that, it's a hurricane lantern, and you can literally put it out in the wind, hang it from the rigging, and it'll still be burning in the morning, and you just top it up with a little bit of fuel in there. And they're lovely and atmospheric, and I think they're actually quite useful as a little anchor light as well, coming in. Just make sure occasionally my kids get hold of that and tip it up, and it's not like watertight, fuel tight, so then the slightly smelly oil comes out, and it's really not very easy to get out of stuff. So, but for old school charm, And I think it's actually a bit practical as well. I love having one of those on board.
That hanging down below in your KM that you've
Yeah,
moored
exactly.
alongside a glacier.
Well, I don't actually use them inside anymore. Oh, that's bright. There we go. Turn that off. There we go. And when you're done with that one, it goes flat.
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, it looks slightly alien-esque like that.
Yeah. So there we go. Torches. I'm sure that there are lots of other brands out there.
Endless brands.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So anyway, those are the ones that I've used recently and that I've really enjoyed using.
Yeah.
And those exposure ones are great as well.
Yeah, I all the time in the world for the
Yeah.
exposure marine ones.
Good. Well, that's probably just about all we've got time for today,
think so.
I reckon. I think we've got more kit, more fantasy boat shopping, and I think we need to have a debate about fin keels versus bilge keels, centre boards we're going to have a chat about. All sorts of stuff where we've discovered that we actually have quite differing opinions.
Yeah, and sometimes a similar opinion. We're not.
Occasionally we agree.
Occasionally we agree.
Yeah. We can both agree that on the fact that we love sailing and
Yeah.
chatting about sailing in a yacht club bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you very much to Royal Lymington for having us today, and thank you guys for coming along and listening or watching. I hope you've enjoyed our slightly random chats, and hopefully we haven't been meandering too much.
Yeah, it's not two old men talk about sailing.
I think that's exactly what it is.
Okay, well, fair enough. Hopefully you've enjoyed two old men talk about sailing.
Cool. Well, that's it for now. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, share. If there's something you want us to cover, put some comments down below, and hopefully see you next time on the Sailing Podcast. Thanks to our sponsor, His Majesty's Coast Guard, for supporting this episode of the Sailing Podcast.